Hey everybody. Thank you all so much for coming. I think this summit is a really great combination of a lot of our Western founders that flew in. For a lot of our Western founders, this is their first time in Hong Kong. And for a lot of our Hong Kong community, a lot of them wanted to meet some of the best founders in our portfolio. So yeah, thank you all for coming, and I'm really happy that everyone could connect with each other. Maybe let's start off with a batch of introductions for everybody. I'm Rodney. I'm a partner at Hack VC. I've worked at Hack for just over 3 years. I've been investing in crypto since early 2017. And yeah, maybe we can have Sia go on with the intros and move forward from there.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sia. I work at an early stage venture fund called DAO 5. We invest all across all crypto verticals in the early stage. Some of our more notable investments, we led the seed round in Barachain. We invest in the seed in EigenLayer, AltLayer, and other products you've seen in the space. Very excited to be here, and thank you to Hack VC for hosting us.
Hi everyone, I'm Sky from J7 Capital. So we are a Canadian VC, so we invest funds and projects. For projects, we invest like L1, L2, DeFi. We recently invest Movement Labs together with Hack. We invest L1 like Shadium and like DeFi like Human Finance. So yeah.
All right. Hey guys, my name is Peng. I'm from Stanford blockchain ecosystem. I'm also founder of the Stanford blockchain Accelerator. And we have helped and accelerated some of the top infra projects like Moderator Labs, who's category defined in ZKML, Calderas in the RAS space, Nexus, and also Zero G, among others. So excited to be here and share with you guys some of the insights and perspectives.
Hi everyone, my name is Annabelle Huang. I'm a managing partner at Amber. We are a crypto market maker. We also run a venture arm since 2022. So very happy to be here today and sharing our perspective of working with both Western VCs projects as well as those in Asia, for us being based primarily in Singapore and Hong Kong.
Thank you so much. Now we'll move into the questions. So, we have a lot of VCs here that look at Western markets, Eastern markets. VCs based in the East, based in the West. Curious to see maybe your guys' perspective on what the key cultural differences are in investment strategies between the two markets from the VCs that you've seen, and maybe also the differences in startup founders and how they pitch their businesses or tailor their business models, and any advice you might have for them to resonate with the Western VC market. Maybe we can start with Sia.
Yeah, I'm happy to start. Well, first and foremost, I think anytime we're talking about cultural differences, ethnic differences, we're generalizing. And ultimately, the job of an investor or a founder is to read the person in front of them, have the EQ to bespoke, tailor a strategy to the vibes of the moment. But all of us, I think intuitively, we do understand there are some important cultural differences between the East and the West, generally. One of the most salient ones that I've seen is risk tolerance. I would say in the West, we are more tolerant of risk, especially in the early stage. At DAO 5, by definition, we tolerate and celebrate risk. Explosive market opportunities, disruptive opportunities, are important to us, and it's something we look for, we're not shying away from. It appears in some Eastern funds, you have a more conservative approach, looking for more traction, more metrics, more fundamentals, even in the early stage. I would respectfully say that in this dynamic and accelerating market, that strategy just isn't gonna make it. You need to have high conviction bets, and you need to have highly contrarian bets, I think, to win in this current industry. For your second part of your question, which was about advice for Eastern founders looking to make an impression with Western VCs, I would say one of the most important cultural differences I've noticed is a trend of individualism in the West versus collectivism in the East. And individualism gives you permission to be who you want to be. The way you dress, the way you speak, your energy, and your product, you should be confident and you should stand by it without an apology for being as confident as you want to be. And potentially, sometimes in more collectivistic cultures, you're told to blend in and not shine as much as you want to be. But with Western VCs, we want to see you shine, and we want to see that energy that's going to inspire us to bet on you for the future.
Cool. I think another criteria that I think Western VC do care is about like the founders' charisma. It's about like Western founders are able to articulate the ideas well because of because English is their mother language, but vice versa, like for the Eastern VC, a lot of Eastern founders actually they couldn't articulate the idea well using English. So it makes the entire pitch. For example, if you are pitching hack VC, and if you can't use English to articulate the idea well, it hurts the idea a lot, and it makes the entire pitch successful. So I think like a lot of really good founders from China, from Southeast Asia, even from Japan or Korea, actually if you ask them to use their own mother language to present the ideas, actually they can present like awesomely. And they are also maybe potentially they are like a technical background as well. So I think that it could be a potential hurdle for a lot of like Eastern founders when they go pitch to Western VCs. It's something that they come across. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, guys. I'm going to also share some of my personal perspective also regarding the West and the East. And a little bit background on myself, which I think is very interesting, is I was born in China, raised in Argentina, and then also sort of spent the school years in US. So I'll try to see the West from American perspective and the East from Chinese perspective, and then zoom out as Argentinian to look at the both. So I think very interesting part of the Western VC and founder, how they think, it has like the cultural, again, I don't want to overgeneralize too much, but it's like, you need to make a general enough statement to be able to understand the framework, etc. So the West has some cultural roots which affected how the VC and startup founders actually behave or work. Is where you have the history of science has rooted back to the ancient Greek society, where science is something actually not useful, right? You can't produce anything useful out of it. However, it's the foundation of technology. You like the history of Chinese history, the four inventions, they're all technology. None of them are science. So you can't have something like science that's not useful, and then from there derive more useful technologies. So that kind of is the startup and or VC function or work in Chinese ecosystem. They're fairly utilitarian. They want to see the result, and they're more like result-driven, technology-driven, rather than something that's more foundational, like science-driven. Another interesting aspect of the difference between Chinese or Eastern and Western is a lack of religion in the Chinese society or the religion in the Western world. A lot of great founders, like Sky said, has great charisma. They're somewhat like Jesus, right? So in crypto, you have something that's futuristic. You're inventing the future, right? Restaking was not existing before, like 2-3 years before. But you have founders like Shriram, who has great charisma, who's like religious leader, who's like Jesus, trying to evangelize something that's not existing before and repeating, and then trying to convince and convert more and more people to join this crypto religion. So that kind of religious tradition in the West or society where the religion kind of shaped how the founders and VC view and work in the crypto industry, that they have some fundamental belief and they think about the long term. And the Chinese, I feel like, is more kind of really utilitarian and more result-driven based on some of the history. So in terms of the advice on how the Chinese founder can work with the Western VCs, I would say you can focus more on the technology side and the fundamental value you're providing, and also charisma, great aspect of it, so that you can be more like kind of friend with Western VCs, so they have more trust on your startup and the project, what you're doing, and trying to build a long-term relationship rather than just a very transactional one-time thing. You don't invest in me, I don't talk to you anymore.
Yeah, I'll just quickly add to that. Definitely very interesting observations, but I think if you look at the crypto industry history. The Asian players, they were the ones who founded, the largest crypto exchanges, miners. These are all very cash flow driven firms or companies. And I think that's sort of ingrained in sort of the Asia side of a culture where you focus more on the immediate result, on the cash flows you can earn. If you look at outside of crypto for the consumer app side or any sort of fintech, the Asian players, they are big with user numbers, right? Alipay, WeChats of the world have billions of users. And I think that's why most of the Asia players, when they think about doing a new startup in crypto, they are focused on user numbers, on TVL numbers, less so maybe versus the Western players who, like Kun said, right, had an idea, had this fundamental belief, and willing to spend many years building upon it. But actually, I also wonder if that's the case because there is certain biases within the VC space, whether it's Western VC or Eastern VC, when they look at projects that came from either the US versus China, I think the criteria is actually a little different. I think a lot of times when we look into investing in a Asia crypto startup, immediately we kind of also pigeonhole them into, okay, you oftentimes they're not building on something completely new. They're building upon something that we've heard before, but they're quick to attract more users or more capital into their product. So that's oftentimes what we end up seeing. But obviously, crypto is a very global asset class, and we shouldn't really pigeonhole ourselves into this way. And with a lot of new anonymous players in the field, I think we're also trying to break down this barrier, so to speak.
Thank you so much. And in the context of emerging technologies like blockchain, are there any distinct evaluation criteria used by Western versus Eastern VCs that you can point towards? Maybe we can start from the left instead with Annabelle.
It's a great question. I think for us at least, but caveat that, Amber, we're not a pure VC firm. We actually started in 2017 as a market maker and crypto asset manager. So for us, being a built-in operator for many years in the space, having spoken to many different VCs, I think for us, we also have this unique vantage point of being primarily Asia-based, but also have access to VCs and clients globally. We do see that in the West, at least a lot of our investors, Hack VC included, they don't mind being more selective in terms of what they invest in. They have fundamental thesis and have a bit of a longer term view, right? It's not like I have to invest in this cycle and things are going to definitely play out. Versus a lot of the Eastern VCs I've spoken to or worked with, again, maybe it's that sort of cash flow driven mentality that they're looking at the time to exit almost, right? When is the TGE? What is the vesting schedule? And is it going to be favorable to me, especially in this cycle and the time frame that I can predict? So I think that's probably the first or the major differences I can think of.
Yeah, I just want to second what Annabelle said. Actually, it's very interesting where you see the difference between the West and the East, and the evaluation, their criteria is quite interesting, and the difference is quite interesting. I think, as Annabelle said, they're much more like oriented towards cash flow, metrics, etc. And also, I think Chinese or Asians are really good at those metrics and operation-heavy businesses. It's like mining, and all the miners are Asian or Chinese, and exchanges, the major ones, are Chinese. and also applications, right? We care about a lot of the number, etc. Tend to be very good. Chinese is very good than Americans. That being said, I think we haven't gone to the space. I mean, the space or the infra has not evolved to such a stage where you can actually develop a very user-friendly killer app yet. So most of the applications we are seeing are more like cycle-driven, are more like kind of live within the cycle. The next cycle, it will be a new narrative, a new app. I think because of that, Asians have a past dependency since they're so good at doing application, and every application only lives within cycle, so you don't have NFT anymore as a big narrative for this cycle. So that's why the mentality shaped by the history, then they're much more kind of time sensitive and trying to time the market. What's the best time to list your token? You have to list it now if the bear market is coming next year, so I have the vesting, etc. Excuse me. And then the vesting basically tend to be less so because of the project invested in the past, like Solana or Near, all like went bottom and came back. So tend to live like a multiple cycles. So their mentality based on the history and also how they behave or think to be much more long-term rather than time the market. If the token doesn't get listed this year, then I don't get my token unlocked. They tend to be much less so rather than like they'll focus on the fundamentals and trying to be long-term. The project tend to live multiple cycles as well.
I think what Kun and Annabelle says like makes perfect sense. Mainly about the founders' executions capabilities, and also the time to exit the project as well. So we're a VC that actually we also invest a lot of funds. We invest around more than 20 funds across Asia and the US. So we understand actually a lot of Eastern VCs, they would like to exit within 1 to 2 cycles because they mainly invest applications, right? So applications, usually the cycle of applications is way shorter than the L1. Like if you look at like Barrel actually they raised the first round that they raised actually in the bear market or even in 2022, right? And actually it goes up, it takes off like in 2024. It takes almost 2 years to really suffer and really to take off in the entire cycle. So, but vice versa, a lot of like gaming projects, applications, actually they raise just maybe like 6 months or like 9 months before the project launch. So that's why it makes like a lot of Eastern VCs to be more like, I would say, not really short-sighted, but at the end, like they are more like they want to have like the return DPI. They want to return DPI faster. It's like when we look at a lot of funds that we invest, usually Eastern funds, the investment period it takes around 2 to 3 years, and they want to return the DPI within like 3 or 5 years. But if you look at Western funds, actually they can take like 3 years, 4 years to deploy, and the entire exit period can go up to like 8 to 10 years, because at the end you are investing like the Accelerator, you're investing Babylon, will take off. You're investing in Cilicia, which takes like 2 years, 3 years, or even 4 years to take off, or even like Solana as well, right? So that's the first thing. So this is timing wise. Second is about the execution capabilities, right? As well as Kun said, I think Eastern founders are really good at executions and are really good at like operations, because if you look at China, like WeChat, Weixin, Alibaba, they're all like killer apps, right? Even you look at like Japan or Korea, like KakaoTalk, Lines, right? All those are like killer apps, and they're really good at like measuring matrix, as what you said. They're really good at like how to calculate the CPI, how to the CPA, everything. And versus, I think the Western founders or the Western VCs do care about the founders' charisma, is also the I would say the ability to like convince or persuade the audience, or it's also about how you can like position the projects to be more like visionary as well. Versus like Eastern founders, I think they're more like practical founders who want to execute the projects. If they have one, they will say one. But if for Western founders, I think if they have one, they will say 2, or they will say 10. So I think that's the key difference.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what was just said. Something that Sky just mentioned, which was the suffering that happens in a bear run, in a bear market. I would say the very sizable bias from Western VCs is the character and the resilience of founders themselves. we really look at the human capital, especially in the early stage, as a determining factor of whether or not we'll invest in a project. And that charisma, that passion, that resilience, that determination of a founder really just comes across when you meet them and when you see them tested by the tremors of a bear market, for instance. And I think Eastern founders need to understand how important charisma and passion are for Western VCs, and you can strategically place certain individuals in your team on the front when you deal with Western VCs, so we understand in a bear run, in a bear market, or when things get tough, you'll have the characteristics and resilience required to handle all the crazy stuff that happens in our crypto industry.
Yeah. So putting all of this together, curious what sort of advice you guys would personally give to founders either based in the West or the East for how they should construct their cap tables and which sort of partners they should incentivize. Should they work with both Western and Eastern VCs, and if so, how so? To start, if anyone is opinionated about the subject, feel free to jump in.
Yeah, I can start first. I think it could definitely be a mix of like both Western and Eastern VCs, because Western VCs and Eastern VCs, they have different strengths at the end. I think Eastern VCs, two things. One is about token listing. If you look at like the major exchange right now, Binance, OKX, Huobi, a lot of like Bitget, Bybit, right? They're all at the end Chinese founders or Chinese teams actually running, right? Or Eastern teams that are actually running, and a lot of users actually are also in the east side as well. So I think a lot of like Eastern VCs, they are very close with the token listing or the way how to get list on token as well. So definitely that's one of the advantage or benefits that like Eastern VC can help with. The second thing is about user. So if you look at the crypto populations right now, actually I think more than half of the crypto users are actually active and high quality crypto users are actually from the east side. If you look at like Southeast Asia, like Indonesia, Vietnam, if you like trading volume wise, definitely Korea or China, although Chinese using VPN, right? But actually Korea is a really big market. Like a lot of like DePIN projects, a lot of like DeFi projects, the trading volumes like 1/3 or even half of the volumes actually came up by the Korean users. So definitely Eastern VC will have a lot of marketing resources with the marketing KOLs to get pushed to the Asia markets. So that's how the Eastern VCs could help with. And in the Western side, definitely about the branding and also the volume as well. Because at the end, like a lot of the first tier VCs or the most reputable VCs that everyone in the planet will follow is always in the US side at the end, yeah. Even at the moment right now. So it's for the branding, for the branding perspective, for the repetition perspective, and also from getting the most top tier capital resources perspective is still on the US side. So at the end, capital side, just try to get it the best from the West side, and user and token listing get it on the East side.
Yeah, I'll add on to that. I think it depends on what stage you're in, right? So if you're, C stage, then a lot of times also depends on the audience of the VCs you're speaking to. This is when you have your core believers. But then as you scale, especially if you're a consumer-facing product, now it could be new layer 1, layer 2s, DeFi, anything like that, then eventually you want to think about how to go to market. And a lot of times that is coming to Asia, and then it's important to have go-to-market partners or strategic partners through your cap table. And I think what we spoke about earlier as well, I think a lot of the Asian VCs, they don't mind coming a little bit later in the round if time to exit is more certain. So I think the reason why I see so many Western projects here in Hong Kong today, I think is probably with the same mindset, right? To get to know more players in Asia, to find more strategic partners, whether it is crypto whales who deploy TVL onto your product or exchanges who can bring users to you. So I think we are seeing this convergence.
Yeah. So maybe as for the last question, looking forward, now that we've looked at the West and the East from a VC landscape, how do you think things might evolve over the next few years? Do you feel like the West will continue to have this sort of mindshare monopoly, and the East, might be looking for shorter timelines for these sorts of investments? Or do you think that this sort of landscape might shift over time, and the distribution of founders might, change from being like in North America to all over the world more so as these communities become more global? Anyone feel free to start.
Yeah, I think right now we're in Hong Kong, so definitely bullish in Asia. If you look at, I mean, the main driver of this, the main driver of the entire landscape change will be mainly because of the regulations. Like if you look at the Asia regulations right now, like Hong Kong, Singapore, Japan, like Southeast Asia, they're really bullish and they're really open with the Web3, right? But vice versa, look at US. Actually, they are still a little bit like skeptical on the securities or on the regulations on the what you can do, what you cannot do. You never know where the red line is, so you dare not touch the red line, right? So we invest a lot of projects that a lot of founders actually from US, but they try to move out from US to like, for example, Singapore or Hong Kong. If they're like BTC projects, they want to move to Hong Kong because a lot of BTC miners or like BTC whales actually from China as well. So I think that's definitely the first criteria because of the regulations. Second is about the users, right? At the end, I think it's like a lot of emerging markets are actually, emerging market users are all from Asia. Like they're hungry to earn money. They're hungry to success. Like if you look at Ascent Infinity, the living cost and also the time cost of a crypto user, like in Southeast Asia, like Vietnam, Indonesia, they are way lower than the US or than the developed countries. So at the end, like those so-called airdrop incentive, so-called those like gaming incentive, are actually way more significant to those like emerging markets in the East compared to the West, I think.
Yeah, totally makes sense. Cool. Well, thank you guys so much for taking the time to be on the panel. I would say these are some of our closest partners at Hack VC, and strongly recommend coming and saying hi to all of them because they all flew in to be here. So, yeah, thank you guys so much.